Deleted Session, February 3rd, 1971. Good evening. Now, we will have some dictation and some personal material, and I will change my mind and give you the personal material first. Now, you have been good about exchanging ideas, the two of you, but not as spontaneous in the exchange of emotions. The remarks Ruber made just before session are all pertinent. The lovely young woman, phrased incidentally, is an excellent one for him to use. Rob noted, Jane was so addressed last night in ESP class by one of her students, a male. Seth said, he did idealize you in the early days of your relationship, and then made the transition that he mentioned. He was ignoring and hiding his fears to protect you as well as himself. He felt frightened, however, then, when you voiced your own fears. Looking at him, you can see that the condition, the problem, is repressed one. The physical symptoms make this obvious. The repression of fears was latched onto for the reasons given in a recent session. The habitual syndrome. Do you recall? Ralph said, yes. Seth said, there was a basis, therefore. Now, in the beginning, now you need a daily period together where Ruber can quite freely be encouraged to discuss any fears that have been a part of that day. This will prevent a 2 or 3 or more day build-up. Later, this will not be necessary, though it should be a frequent pattern in your relationship. And you should feel quite free to discuss your fears then also. Practically, this is of great importance, for it will help break the repressive habit on the one hand, and help end blockages that have been holding back passive and healthy charges of activity. You will be killing two birds with one stone. This does not mean that the emphasis should be upon fears. Do you follow me? Ralph said, yes. Seth said, if possible, these discussions should end with the reassurance that you can work out the practical aspects of your life together, and that you are large enough to understand your fears and use them creatively. This can be a therapeutic measure of great lasting value. Whenever possible, finish up the discussion with at least a brief look at the underlined portions of the sessions on Ruber's clipboard. The intellectualization of the fears can be a trick to avoid facing their emotional reality. So beware of that. I am a lovely young woman is particularly good, because it automatically identifies Ruber with grace, agility, and health. Too often he has identified himself with his symptoms. He has in his mind seen himself not as a woman who had certain symptoms, along with many excellent good points and abilities, but he has identified himself primarily at times with the symptoms alone. Hence, the appalling monster woman image that sprang to his mind. Now, earlier, he would have been so terrified that the image would not have become conscious. Instead, it can now serve as an excellent learning point, and for both of you. The identification of self with symptoms alone is very dangerous. Always distorted. The symptoms themselves are a representation of certain distortions. They are not representations of the entire self, and should never be considered so. Rupert's entire self-image is not wrong, therefore. Now, let us look at this simply. He comes through as an extremely attractive, highly intelligent young woman with strong psychic and creative abilities, unusual insight into the problems of others, as a writer, a psychic, and as the mistress of a delightful establishment. He also comes through as a young woman with some problems, with a repressive tendency that is psychically materialized, with dogmatic and somewhat rigid, distorted ideas that have only lately really been understood by the personality. I want him to read that, and I want you to know how he thinks when he is in error. Rob said, "All right." Seth said, "When he is in error, he sees himself as an old hag, overly cautious with his psychic work, knocks himself over the head for not being freer about it, distrusts it, knocks himself over the head of distrusting it, fearful of emotional expression. Now, you missed these fears of emotional expression on his part, because even with it, he relates well usually with others. Particularly, of course, he was afraid of unpleasant emotional expression or anger. He learned restraint in this direction with his mother, and all kinds of automatic muscular tensions were then learned to inhibit the expression of fear of anger. So, at his worst, he feels powerless before it. And there are energy blockages here particularly. Many of these are perfectly normal fears. He felt it beneath him intellectually to speak of them to you, and felt that you would have no use for him, that you would think he was a coward, spineless child, rather than the independent brave spirit that he tried so hard to be for himself and you. So, in the beginning, particularly, you may be the one to take the initiative at times, for he may be reluctant, you see, a symptom of the habit. The release of the fears, then, allows the body to release the natural optimism and healthy emotions that are needed, and the expansion of activity and energy. But if you do not allow some regular time for such discussions, matters will slide. Now, you may take your break. Now, retracing. Rob noted, in answer to my question at break. They said, will not occur in any predetermined, rigid manner, as it has been described, unless there is a psychic or mental return to the mental patterns that caused the difficulties to begin with. This is not operating, then in Rupert's case, the mental patterns are not being returned to. On the other hand, feelings create the physical state. Accumulated feelings of like nature will be expressed often, but not always, in repetitive fashion. It would be possible to go through Rupert's body and pinpoint the physical materialization of certain feelings, as they are represented in a symptom. It would also be possible, however, to go through his body and pinpoint the particular energizing feelings and ideas responsible for the extant functioning of the other body areas. Retracing is a noticeable effect, not understood, highly distorted, in the explanations you have been given, representing an echoing effect that occurs whenever the individual involved touches upon those thought and feeling areas that brought about the difficulty. They are minimal if the individual is progressing at a psychic level. Many individuals, however, relying upon the physical therapy alone, set up negative associations. Say, for example, that a deeply repressed fear brought about the squeezing of nerves in the area of the lower spinal cord, without the knowledge that you have. Then, any sensations in the area of those nerves could then, through association, activate the original fear, which would in turn aggravate the condition. As the chiropractor makes repeated adjustments, gradually the effect would lessen. Initially, however, it could be quite strong, and the chiropractor would call it a retracing action. Certain pains through association can send an individual backward to the original fear or situation that first caused it. Rupert has at times reacted in that manner, though to a less dramatic degree. When an echo of an old, frightening physical pain is felt, he has largely learned, however, to avoid this, particularly since our station that the feeling he is repressing is the problem, and if that is allowed released, the physical aspect will vanish. An example was the Sunday at your mother's, when he was afraid of the cramp in the leg, which did not come in the way that he feared. Now, he did pick up negative suggestions regarding retracing. It only applies when a mental aspect of illness is not understood, and to the degree that is not understood. When it does operate then, at its own level, it is therapeutic. Each time the body reacts less and less, it is like crying wolf. The treatments in themselves are beneficial, but use this without the guides that you have. If you really do not want to get well, then no doctor or chiropractor can help you, for you will substitute symptoms. The treatments do serve as an aid, however, but he should not expect the retracing effects, for there is no reason why they should operate in his case. The cold does have an effect upon muscles, however. It goes unnoticed when you are leaving your muscles alone. Now, he thinks he should answer the phone every time it rings, and answer the door every time everyone knocks. He thinks he is afraid to have people see him in poor shape, and so does not want to answer the door. Actually, it is his state of mind. He does not want to see anyone, period. Often at such times, he does not have to want to see people at all times. Is he afraid of seeing people at those times? If so, why? For the symptoms are applied in that respect. You got more than you bargained for. Take your break. Now in class, you see he is expressive and expansive. He enjoys teaching. In class, he is spontaneous. He is also thinking of others and how to help them. And he is definitely not concentrating upon his own symptoms. He feels an inferior member of a family, but in a superior position as a teacher. And when negative thoughts and emotions are present at many other occasions, he acts to some degree also with positive aggressiveness in class. He is sure of himself. The positive aggression is important. Great bursts of energy are available to him then, and he is not ambiguous about using it. Now that feeling of confidence is available to him at other times. He should try to remember the feeling and recapture it. He also on his own speaks loudly in class, and automatically accepts his own composure, status as teacher, and his abilities, without question. He takes it for granted that he will be in good condition for class, regardless of how he was felt earlier, and the expectation is always correct. The lovely young woman image will also help fill him out. Now, when he was doing disguised autobiographical novels, he released his fears through his writing. When the writing changed, he buried them as completely as possible. He also stopped writing what he thought of as pessimistic poetry, which had performed the same function, allowing for the expression of fearful emotions. He used some of our material as an excuse to further shove his fears beneath, over-exaggerating certain remarks that I had made. You follow me here? Rob said, yes. Seth said, again, your sessions should allow for the expression and discussion of fears, the giving of comfort and assurance, but not involving emphasis upon fears. As in the 2 days, you do not need to take notes here. It is simply a matter of Rupert keeping in touch with his own feelings, whatever they are. Do you have specific questions? Rob said, no, I think we are doing quite well. Seth said, you must follow the practical advice, however. He should deal with his feelings about going out. Why does he not want to? What is he afraid of? Rob asked, why doesn't he want to go out? Seth said, on different occasions, the answers are different. Now, he must emotionally find this out for himself. When he feels the reluctance, however, he should try to discover why and not ignore it. Stay home and cower, or force himself to go out, denying the feelings that has hidden. Do you see the difference? Rob said, yes. Seth said, he should indeed go out more. I do not want positive suggestions just slipped on like bandages, leaving the fears unreleased or unrecognized. The positive suggestions are extremely important. Clearing the monster woman image will be of great help here. Do you have questions? Rob said, no, I guess not. Seth said, then, we did not get to dictation, but I hope that this will be as valuable. He is not having the menopause. Now, a fond good evening. Rob said, thank you, Seth. The same to you. Seth said, if you do not have any questions, do you have any remarks? Rob said, no, only that we'll keep trying. Rob noted, my 2 pendulum sessions and Jane's responses to the second one are referred to in the next session.